Hello everybody and welcome back to 12 days of Dollar Tree Christmas desserts, where I'm trying to show affordable desserts you can make from Dollar Tree for potlucks, office holiday parties, or family gatherings. Yesterday we made Christmas crack, and today we are going to try to recreate Crumble's Raspberry Cheesecake Cookie. For the cookie base, I am going to be using a box of traditional vanilla cake mix. They do sell sugar cookie mix and you can use that, but you would need 2 packs of sugar cookie mix, so the cake mix is more affordable because you can make the same amount of cookies with 1 ingredient as opposed to 2, and when everything is $1.25, that matters. And to make cookies out of cake mix, you need oil. You can buy vegetable oil at Dollar Tree. It comes in a small bottle about this size. But since I am exclusively using Dollar Tree ingredients to make these desserts, I am going to be using applesauce in place of eggs, which I have tested and it works amazingly in these types of cookies. You can use eggs, you will need 2. To make it cheesecake, we are going to be adding some graham cracker crumbs. So I'm using a graham cracker pie crust. I do always try to find a broken one when I can, since I'm crumbling it up anyways. But for the whole graham crackers, you'll need like a blender or a food processor. So that's why I'm not using that. And instead I'm using a crust where it's already crushed up for me. For the cheesecake topping, we are doing cream cheese frosting. And then for the raspberry part, we are using some of their raspberry preserves, which I absolutely love. So if you were to count that, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 ingredients at $1.25 and 1 ingredient that was $1.50. Making this dessert $7.75 for all of the ingredients, including the oil and the applesauce. And that is less than $1 a cookie, whereas Crumble's cookies are almost $5. So the first thing I'm going to do is crumble my crush up my graham cracker pie crust. Again, if you're gonna do the pie crust route, try to buy a broken one. You're gonna be crushing it up anyways, and just save something from potentially going in the trash. But we can turn it into something new. And you can just see how easy this is to crush up. Trying to get underneath. There we go. So I can get my hands in there. Press it with your fingers to break it back up from a crust into crumbs. All right, we are going to then prepare our cookie dough. And this one is a 15.25 ounce box of cake mix, and that does matter. So try to find one that's around 15 ounces if you're making this recipe. The one sold at Dollar Tree will pretty much get you there. Next up, we're gonna add oil, and we're gonna add a little less than a ½ cup. If you wanna be super specific, it's gonna be about 7 tablespoons. I do about this is called a scant ½ cup, which is where you don't quite fill it up to the top, but it's almost to the top. And then a ½ cup of unsweetened applesauce. It's 1/4 cup per egg. So if you're doing eggs, you're gonna do 2 eggs. If you're doing applesauce, one of these little individual cups of applesauce is pretty much exactly what you need. So, and then we also want our cookie base. I'll pull up the raspberry crumble cookie real quick. Raspberry cheesecake cookie, a buttery graham cracker cookie. So that's important. So we do need to add graham crackers to our cookie base. And I am going to add about a ½ cup. This is like a heaping ½ cup, but we're gonna add about a ½ cup of graham cracker crumbs to our cake mix base, just to give our cookies a graham cracker flavor and a little bit of that crunchy texture. Now we're gonna go in and mix that all together to form it into a dough. Very simple, easy cookie dough. Just look at that. You cannot argue that that is like the quickest cookie dough ever. Amazing, I love it. The next step is semi-important, and it has to do with how these ingredients need a little bit of time to just kind of get to know each other. We're going to cover this dough and refrigerate it for 1 to 2 hours, which will also help to limit its spread, and that will result in a cookie that's a little thicker and a little chewier. So I'll check back in with you in 1 to 2 hours. Our graham cracker dough has chilled in the fridge nice and sufficiently. So all the flavors have had time to meld. Everything should be set up properly. Now we're gonna go ahead and line our baking sheet with parchment paper. And I'm also gonna pull back in my graham cracker crumbs. Gonna do a bit of an assembly line here. Let's give those a little level. If I have any residual dough, rather than making a 9th cookie, I'm just going to add a little bit to each one. This has a nice texture. I really like the addition of the graham crackers into this. I think that's... Now I've got my 8 cookies. I'm gonna roll them into balls, and I'm gonna dunk them in our graham cracker crumbs. So there's graham cracker crumbs kind of coating all of the edges. You have some little chunks of graham cracker, like go ahead and press those in. That's just extra texture for your final cookie. All right, once we've got all of our cookies sufficiently graham crackered, I really hope this baking sheet is big enough. I'm going to press them down into thick pucks. I like to do this. I think it makes them bake more evenly. I think it gives me a flatter top to my final cookie. I'm concerned that I don't have enough space for all 8 of these though. Oh yeah, I should. I just have to rearrange. So go for rounds that are about 3 inches wide by, I'd say about 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch thick. Right, I'm gonna bake my graham cracker cookies at 350 for about 14 minutes. They are bigger cookies, so they do need longer to bake. It should be fully baked. You can do 14 to 16 minutes, but I usually do 14 and they turn out just fine. Once they come out of the oven, you see I have a towel here. I like to give them a good little whack on the towel. That kind of flattens them out a bit more, gives them some of those nice like bakery style cracks. And then we're just gonna set these and let them cool completely before we finish up our cookies. Once our cookies are fully cooled, we are gonna get started on our frosting, which is just jarred cream cheese frosting. And the only thing I really like to do with this is just whip it up just to give it a smoother texture, but that's optional. You don't have to do that. You can technically use it straight out of the jar. Very similarly to how I shaped the cookies, I wanna get an equal amount of icing on each of these cookies. So first thing I'm gonna do is just do a little blob on each one. These are a flat iced cookie. I'm just gonna go through and equally distribute all of the frosting. I do everything I can to make sure that like when I'm making a batch of something, that I'm thinking ahead to how to stretch my ingredients across the entire batch so I don't have extra left over, and also so I don't end up running out of it prematurely. So we're gonna grab our sheet pan and a fresh sheet of parchment paper, and we're gonna take each of our cookies and we're gonna invert it and press it down to distribute that frosting across the entire top of the cookie. Again, it's that nice flat frosted top. I'm gonna do that for all of them. And then we are gonna pop these in the freezer for about 30 to 45 minutes or so. I'm gonna pull my cookies out of the freezer. They're hopefully set enough by now that we can peel them off of the parchment or peel the parchment off of them, whichever one works. So first let's try to peel them off of the parchment. See if that frosting is firm enough. Sometimes it's easier, sometimes it's easier just to flip everything over and then peel it off. And it's not gonna be a super smooth texture. It is gonna have a bit of that paper texture, but generally speaking, this is like the easiest way to get a nice flat top on your cookies. And then we're going to put a spoonful of that raspberry jam right on top of each cookie. I feel like an extra step that you could potentially do, because this looks a little on the thinner side, would be to heat it up on the stovetop and get it to a really thick consistency. But as it stands, this is fine for me. Kind of spread it out. So we have a nice circle of that pink jam and just a little bit of that white kind of peeking around the edges. And there you have it. There is our raspberry cheesecake cookie. Well, Michael just popped in here and snagged a cookie. What'd you think? It was good?
Yeah, delicious.
He got to try it before I did. He's heating up a meal prep. Let's see. Grab another one. I don't think you can eat 2 of those.
Just kidding.
Do you want to try the other thing I made? So this is from day 1. Oh, my eyes. Which one do you like better? The cookies? I think it actually is the perfect frosting to cookie ratio because it's not overly sweet. There's not too much frosting, plus it's got the sweetness from the jam. This one turned out really good. So there we go, day 2 of 12 days of Dollar Tree Christmas desserts. We made raspberry cheesecake cookies. These ones turned out fantastic. So we have one, I wouldn't even call it a miss, but one that was okay and one that was superb. So if I gave the Christmas crack a 7 out of 10, I'd probably give these an 8.5 out of 10, maybe even a 9. So that wraps up day 2 of 12 days of Dollar Tree Christmas desserts, and I'll see you guys again tomorrow for day 3.